Hello, welcome to another episode of BACKCHAT. We're joined by some members of XSET. We've got Syyko with the manager. We've got AYRIN as well, the former duelist turned into a Sentinel player now, I guess, as well. So thank you very much for joining us as well. We hear that you've ventured down from a team house, which is quite an unusual... yeah, no one else is really doing the whole team house thing in like almost esports at the moment, but especially Valorant.
It seems like team houses aren't as popular anymore. People like having their own space and apartments, but we have a good crew, a lot of good chemistry, so we got them all in a house and doing pretty well so far. It's helping us out.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah. One of the main reasons why we got the house was like when we started, we were not like we weren't all like pros in like Counter-Strike or whatever, so we never really tried it on the team. So our idea was like, let's try and build that chemistry and like do something different, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good experience.
Yeah. Are you enjoying it? I mean, how long have you been in the team house for people at home? Because I was completely unaware that you were doing this. Like, I kind of have in my head that everyone, because the last year was just COVID and everything's been happening online, that everyone is just spread out, playing in their own homes, apartments, whatever.
Playing their underwear, right?
Yeah, and then they occasionally get together and do some boot camp, like 100 Thieves going out to LA and that kind of shit. So I didn't even realize that you were doing this. So can you explain kind of how long you've been doing it for and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's been about 2 months. Came down to Austin, Texas. Everybody got vaccinated about 2-3 weeks down, so everybody's good to go on that regard. But yeah, you know, we just kind of wanted to get together. Originally, apartments was the game plan, and then we realized, screw it, let's just get a nice house and all kind of live together. So it's working well. Yeah.
I mean, it's really fun because like we have like girlfriends visits or like parents visit, and like it's just cool to get everyone in one space. Right. Even when you have like apartments, right? How often do you get like everyone in one room like hanging out? Yeah. I think like the parents and the owner and the people, everyone it's just a good time, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
That was my main concern with apartments is I didn't want to come down here and like everybody has an apartment and we're all like in the same building, but we're still playing in our own rooms, right? Like the cohesion and just the chemistry that you gain from playing in the same room and just winning and losing together in the same room is just unmatched. So something we wanted to focus on.
Do you do like group VOD review sessions and stuff like that, looking at tape or doing prep and that kind of stuff like together? Do you find that being more helpful? People stay focused or some other tangential benefit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just having everybody together in a room and just it's easier to stay on task. It's easier to understand like what everybody's thinking and how everybody feels about a certain situation or a certain play if you're reviewing it. Because obviously like vocal language is one thing, but body language is a whole other thing. So being in the same room and really understanding like when you're sitting next to someone and you're in the middle of a tense situation, being able to feel that energy of your teammate is just unmatched.
Yeah, definitely. So what is your role completely? Like how would you describe, I guess, what you do for the team? What do you bring to the team? That kind of thing for people who are unaware.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the head coach of XSET VALORANT, but we don't have a dedicated manager, so I'm also the manager of XSET VALORANT. I book the scrims, manage the tournaments, things like that. So I'm kind of just an all-in-one support staff member.
Gotcha. Wyatt, I can't believe that you've come dressed as me.
No,
again.
This shit is unbelievable.
I can't believe.
He told me he was gonna. No, I was ready for you to flip it on me, like, oh, I showed up trying to look like you today. No, this shit is unbelievable.
It's outrageous. He comes downstairs, he checks what I'm wearing, he goes back upstairs, and he changes into those clothes.
Okay, the exact opposite happened again. Every time we do it, no, it's unbelievable. We show up matched all the time. I see him open the door and then he tries to like slip out like, oh shit, didn't see me. And then he goes back to his place, comes back looking like me.
That's bullshit. Everyone
bought the same chain as me.
Everyone who watches the show knows the chains are my thing and Wyatt's just trying to copy my style. That's fucking bullshit. Yeah, the last 2 months have been pretty successful with XSET as well. Do you think, I mean, obviously there's not just a direct correlation of we moved in together suddenly we're like 10 times better. Has it made a tangible benefit, do you think, AYRIN, to like the quality of play?
Wait, sorry, say that again?
To actually be in the same house, to be playing together, do you think it's made a benefit to the quality of play as well?
Oh, 100%, because, well, like there's a trade-off to everything, right? And like when you're sitting beside your teammates and, you know, someone makes a bad play at home, you could be like freaking out, like, oh, fuck, like, what are you doing? Or like, come on. But in person, you can be like, yo, like, why? Like, what happened? Or like, yo, Bryce, like, good job. You know, high five, slap him on the back. You know, I like to give BCJ some hugs because he's a quieter guy and when we're in a room together. But you hype him up, and like, I think when you hype people up, even the quiet people, they love it. Even though they say, you know, he says like, he doesn't like it, but
Yeah.
look at him. Look how happy he looks.
Look how happy he looks.
Yep, feeling the love.
He looks like the devil has inhabited his body. I mean, the dad energy that dephh is exuding is just ridiculous.
I like the sports coat.
I know it's the sports coat, but then also the hand on Zekken's shoulder. And Zekken he's got the polo on. I mean, it does look like you guys went out to play golf, and it's fucking. It's a great photo.
When's the last time you saw a 16-year-old wear a golf shirt? Come on, like that's just style. Like,
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it is.
Come on.
that's that golf trip.
It really is. Yeah, that's that. I love that photo. I actually love that photo.
Good photo. You can't see it, obviously. The reason I'm smiling so big over there is Jordan's tickling my side from over there. I don't know what that was all about, but I just let it happen.
The chemistry building.
Yeah, some serious drip. I wanted to talk a bit about the kind of going back and talking about the full history of XSET as well, because it's not a particularly big organization, and you guys were an unsigned team that moved into the XSET team underneath that banner, and since then have just been slowly getting better and better and better. We had BCJ on the show a while back, and at that point you guys were making pretty decent results, doing okay. Can you describe to me a bit of, from your point of view, kind of the what your time has been like up until these recent roster changes on XSET?
How far back were you thinking?
Well, I mean, since you joined the team not since you joined like the Pretty Boys, but since like the organization, since you were part of that.
Yeah, so at the beginning we were just experimenting, because the only person that was signed to XSET was Lifo, right?
Yeah.
For like 2 or 3 months, and he was trying to build a team. That's even before Don joined.
Right.
I mean, shit, that was like a year ago.
That was like
Wow.
August or July.
Yeah.
That was like it's crazy that it's been a year. But before we joined, like you said, we were just in the tier 2 scene doing like all right. It wasn't like we were like popping off, like dominating everyone. But then when we got signed, that's when, you know, we started to get better and better. But it was very upsetting because like we were still very new, and that first we kind of like blew it out of first strike, which was crappy. Yeah, like that was just super sad. We were like, oh fuck, like we just got signed. We were like, we need to do good. But then we didn't. You know, this is something that we always talk about. Like, we don't want to make a lot of roster changes. That's just
Right.
I don't think like that's how it works, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that was one of the cool things about your team when you started, I don't know, like rising up the ranks at the beginning of 2021. A lot of people felt like, or I saw a common thing was like, wow, these guys kind of came out of nowhere. It's like, no, I mean, they've been grinding for like 6, 7 months at this point with this pretty much the same. You made like one move, I think, by 2021, and you've just been grinding with the same roster, which is uncommon. I mean, most of the, you know, a lot of the teams that come to the top are, you know, they're making a lot of moves to get there, or, you know, trying to just sign 1 or 2 upcoming talents with some existing guys, but not a lot of teams that have just been actually grinding since the beginning.
But that was a big help because of Don, because back then, like I would preach this a lot too, and Don as well, is we're nobodies, right? Like we got to play like 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
And back then, I think I was watching your podcast, we were playing, like it wasn't even like now where we're trying to find the best balance between like mental and like family time. But back then we were playing like 6-7 days a week, and if we weren't playing, we were playing ranked for like 10 to 15 hours a day.
Right,
you know?
Right.
Yeah, we were hitting it pretty hard. When I came in, we were still pretty boys. Pure R was in talks with another org that was trying to pull him away, and I kind of managed to pull him back, get the banner. XSET signed everybody, and we won that first tournament. Like, what was it, Complexity 10K or whatever, and we went into first strike, which was obviously disappointing. We made that one roster move, which was Brando for BCJ. BCJ, who I knew from Battalion.
Okay.
And then after that, we really didn't make a roster move for a while. And like Jordan was saying, like we really preached, you know, if these guys are this far ahead of us, we can't play as much as them and hope to catch up. So we were putting in 6-7 days a week, you know, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day, just really grinding it with that core roster, developing the chemistry, fleshing out all our playbook, all our protocols, all our permutations, and just really like getting to a point where we felt confident with the roster that we had to kind of strike up a little bit higher than we have been.
Where does that attitude come from? Is that from, normally when you have that attitude as a team, it stems from either a couple of insanely work-driven people, or just a it happens to be a collective desire of the people that you've put together. But because this was a team where it's not like you had, or at least it doesn't seem like you had selected people for that ethic. Like you hadn't come in with the idea of, I'm going to build a team that looks fantastic. I'm going to only find people that fit my ideal. How did you get that attitude within the team? How do you actually manage to make everybody sign on board to this idea of, we're going to work the fuck out of this team?
I think it's just something that I had to preach. I came in not being a coach from like another esports title. So this was my first time, in a professional esports scene as a coach. So bringing in my management style, like from the business world or from military school back in the day, like I really pushed this work ethic, this we have to hit the grindstone attitude. And everybody, I just really was fortunate in, everybody was really receptive to it. And Jordan was a huge help in just kind of pushing that, because he, unlike me, has a very diverse esports background and has been in the scene for a very long time playing at the professional level. So he knows what it takes to be at the top. He knows what it takes to be a winner. So he helped me really push this and kind of create this work ethic and this environment and this atmosphere within the team where if we're coming in to play, we're coming in to be serious, and we got to have like some level of fun as well, obviously, to balance it out. But it's work, right? We're paid employees of an esports organization. We're here to win. So we have to work as hard as we can to do that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think then I'd kind of like you guys to speak to what it's like when you do have to make roster moves then, because being that roster moves are something you don't want to actually have to do if, doesn't call for it. But, as of late, obviously dephh joined the roster and then zekken came in. Yeah, just I guess speak to the difficulties of making moves when you've been playing with the same guys for so long.
Well, like every roster move we make, it's like, like in esports where like some guy has a bad tournament, it's like, oh, fuck that guy, like cut that guy, or people are messaging people behind people's back, like, yo, we gotta get rid of Wyatt, like this guy's trolling.
Yeah, but like every single time I play ranked with him. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Kurt, there's so many clips you could pull up right now. No. There are so many clips.
Listen, this isn't a podcast about our play. This is a podcast about their play. Yeah. Let's keep it focused on XSET. Don't pull up my clips.
Okay.
But to speak to that, it's like every roster move we've made has not been about one tournament. It's not been about like 2 tournaments, not even 3. It's about months of play. Right. And then to see most importantly, it's the attitude, right? And then we felt like we had to make a change because like we saw that like we were qualifying for every, tournament on the first try, which was like no one expected that. Come on, like like come on.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, and then we just got to the Masters and we were choking, and it just it's not as easy, because I don't like to use the word choking. Like, I don't want to be associated with choking. Like, that's just bad. Sure. It's more we weren't able to adapt. So we would come into the tournaments with amazing setups, really good practice. And before we were less free flowing, so we had a lot of set plays, as you guys watch your podcast. You guys see that we have good set plays.
Yeah.
It's very like we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But then we didn't change enough between the initial tournaments, the qualifiers, and the actual main event.
Okay.
That's the main reason I believe we lost. It wasn't because we were choking. It's because we just got too comfortable with what we were doing. We thought it was going to work, and we're like, it worked, so let's do it again.
Right.
But then, as you see with other teams, I think we'll talk about later as well, that's just not how the game works. And I feel like now we're starting to learn, like, we have to be adaptive no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he was saying, like we exhaust every option, right? Like we don't say, okay, this guy had a bad tournament or he had a bad couple tournaments, let's get rid of him. It's this guy had a bad tournament. What can we do to improve this player, right? And then we work over the course of a couple months to try and improve whatever it may be, whether it's an individual player's issues or issues with how like roles are working or how people are fitting into different situations. But we try to do everything in our power to not make a roster move, right? Like making a roster move is the last resort for us. Whereas some teams, I feel like that's just that's not working. Let's change it up, right? We don't want to be that team. Our management doesn't want to be that team. Definitely not. But coming into stage 3, like obviously we're qualifying first time through, like he's saying, and then we're just having issues in the long run. And I really felt that we needed an IGL, and that was my big thing. Like I want to bring in an IGL, and I feel like there's some pieces of the roster that aren't working right now. Like what can we do? And so we started kind of brainstorming, and that's when we made the decision to move Wyatt to the bench and start trying some different pieces. Right. And we tried some different people out. We had a lot of really good tryouts. We even had a person or two that we thought might be the one, and then ended up not being the one. But dephh was actually someone we had our eyes on like from the beginning, because I knew, like making these deep roster runs or making these deep tournament runs, and kind of like falling apart towards the end. It felt like it was lack of flexibility and lack of a free flowing environment, right? Like he was saying, like if we're not changing up our plays, people are studying us, they know what we're doing. We need to bring in someone who can kind of create a more dynamic play style for us. So focusing for an IGL was something that I really wanted to do, and that's kind of what prompted these roster moves before stage 3.
What did your calling situation look like previously then? Because I remember when we were talking to BCJ, I think he was pretty vocal in terms of the IGL end, right? I think he had just
switched
over
over to IGL. I think after we
actually
as we spoke to.
Went through a couple of different IGLs because when I joined into Pretty Boys, Brando was the IGL, and then we switched that off. Pure R started IGLing, and that's when we made that switch and we moved Brando for BCJ. So Pure R was IGLing for a while, and he was decent at it, but it took away from his ability to be a hard entry duelist and kind of like that star fragger that we needed.
Sure.
So
very common thing when you try and have those people IGL, it seems.
Definitely. I think from the outside point of view as a player, you're like, oh, I could do that. I can call. And you're not really thinking about how it might affect your gameplay. So that was something that he kind of learned over the course of just testing it out himself. So after that, we
split it, right? So then Xander went on calling us.
Xander started calling CT side exclusively, and he didn't want to call T side. So our CT sides were excellent for a really long time as Xander was calling them. And then we were kind of moving pieces around in the IGL role on attack just to see who could fit.
That's so interesting as well, because it really did feel like the attack sides were
different.
Were like a problem.
Yeah. I mean that was the consistent point for me as to why you guys couldn't like break through during the Challenger finals. Was just that your defensive sides were always great, but it felt like you had to get so many rounds on defense to actually win a map because the attack side was just not reliable at that time.
100%. Yeah. And then Brendan came in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brendan did pretty well in the IGL role, but it was much of the same of like it detracted from his ability to be like that hard fragging Sova that we like had seen from him in the past, and we were starting to run into some similar issues where deep into tournament runs or deep into a best of 3 series that we may go down, in points in or maybe go down in rounds in. It seemed like we were running into those same issues. We were running out of ideas. We were running into brick walls, right? And we weren't dynamic enough to kind of overcome the hump. And so I just wanted to bring in someone who had done this before, right? Who we didn't really have to teach how to IGL. Like Brendan was learning very rapidly, and I think in the future, maybe 2-3 years from now, he'll be like one of the best IGLs in the game. Who knows? But he had some growth to overcome to get to that point, right? And I just wanted to bring in someone who could take that weight off of his shoulders, and he could just get back to being that Sova savant. Like I feel like he's one of the top 3 Sovas in the game, if not one of the best. So I wanted to kind of get him back in that role.
But I wanted to ask you guys, like, who's a good IGL? Like, there's like millions of players in Valorant, right? Like, it's like, this is like what I always thought about. It's like, if you want to be on a pro team, shouldn't you practice that? Shouldn't you be like VOD reviewing the fuck out of everything and be like, I want to be the top IGL? Like, let's say like if I was a team right now, who would you pick up? Like, who's a known IGL that could like change your team?
I mean,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, how top level are we going? I don't know. Shaz is obvious, right?
Shaz,
like Shaz, FNS are probably obvious too. For
you're even having trouble listing more than like 5 people, right?
I'm trying to. Who are the teams after that? Who's the IGL on Gen.G now? I mean, I would trust Gen.G.
They just picked up Nature. To be the
it's Nature
Is he
now.
the IGL?
Yeah, Nature's the IGL now.
Was IGL IGL for a time with Immortals as well, and they looked fairly decent when he was doing that. I mean, Rossi tried to IGL for Immortals recently, but I don't know how that's really been going.
It's not worked out. Right now.
NRG suffering after the loss of Daps, but I mean, Daps is going back to CS, hasn't he? So that isn't an option at all. Yeah. I mean, there's some big IGLs in Europe as well, because they tend to play a very much more like structured style where the IGL is like way more focal for their entire team, it feels.
Yeah, you think about maybe you think about the IGLs.
It's just crazy because the game has been out for a year and a half and we don't have people who are like IGLs,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely but that's always been the case, I feel, even when I was just casually following the CSGO scene. It was like, if you want to get to the top, the IGL is always a premium product. It is so in demand and the supply is so small that if you want to get good at a game and you want your value to be more than just what you can frag in the server or your gameplay decisions, learn how to IGL, and you'll be so valuable
Yeah,
to
that's what I
any
think.
team that's coming up.
Yeah.
It's obviously a very hard skill. It's
kind of a
like, just learn
thankless
how to
one, too.
IGL. It's really difficult
Yeah.
as well to be able to play that whilst performing your best. But yeah, it's,
That's why it's a thankless job, though, because you can't. It's so hard to play your best when you're the IGL. So
Yeah.
to a lot of the audience, it's like, this guy never gets kills. You're like, what value is he bringing to the team? He's not on the scoreboard. So it's not really.
things that people just feel like they could do, right? Like I said earlier, even players are like, oh, I could IGL, right? I could do that. And it seems like just something that you
classic.
can do. Yeah.
I mean, Vanity actually is another person
Vanity,
that we didn't
sure.
really discuss, who absolutely should be in the conversation for.
But
what
let's
he's
say
done
like
in V1.
Vanity or like Shazam were like removed from their team. Obviously, that wouldn't happen. But who would they get? That's why they would get nobody.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think the dev pickup made so much sense to me too, because he was I mean, he's known as being a very strong IGL. The team that he was on didn't really perform particularly well, but I mean, when he was having conversations in recent interviews, he said part of that was because he felt like he wasn't really empowered to do what he wanted to do with that Dignitas roster for whatever reason. Did you feel like it was you said that you trialed a bunch of people for that role? Can you kind of talk through that kind of situation without being specific, perhaps? What were some of the qualities that people weren't able to showcase that dephh did, that ended up with settling on him for being the IGL, the leader of the team?
Everyone that we tried out people for a month. Like we went silent for a month after we got knocked out of the Masters 2. No one knew what the fuck we were doing. Like we were just not talking to anybody. We messaged like 20 people at least, and we tried out everyone. We tried out people from different games that had no experience in Valorant because they could be the next thing. But then one thing we found out that for calling was that everyone was co-IGL. No one was like IGL like
Right.
Everyone wants to be a secondary caller.
Yeah.
Everyone wants that pressure of being the main caller. They want the option to speak up when they see a play, but they don't want the pressure of having to do it every single round. They want to be able to focus on their own play. So we tried out a bunch of different people. Obviously, like the JC Stanny thing leaked out. We tried him for a while, and we even thought maybe he might be the one. But
I mean, we absolutely thought that was the obvious conclusion because it's like
Well, that
we
was
did
inevitable.
drop XSET looking for an IGL who's also a smoker.
I mean, that's
From
were
the outside.
were you trying him as an IGL?
well, that's the thing.
I
I asked him straight up. I said, look, like we want to bring in more firepower, but we also really need an IGL. Like, are you willing to IGL? And he was one of those that said, I just kind of want to be a secondary caller. I don't want to lead the team. I don't want to be a full-time IGL.
I remember we did have him on and we spoke to him about that, and that was his stance. I don't know. That was months before those rumors, but yeah, I mean, another guy who gives credence to that point that there's just not a lot of people who want to take on that responsibility of having to put their idea on the line, I guess, every round and have the failures on them,
Yeah, it's a hard job.
So that's the main difference between dephh and a lot of people, right? It's like it's like when you meet this guy, and I'm sure you guys will meet him because he's been around, right? But he wants to do it. It's like, I want to do this. This is what I am good at. Right. It's not like 95% of the people who IGL, like even me, like I IGL'd in Crossfire before internationally, right? But when I'm playing Valorant, because I didn't play games for like 2 or 3 years because I did my masters. I want to IGL, but it's not like I'm still a co-IGL. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I want to do this 150% because
You're doing it because the team needs you to do it.
Yeah, and
than I want to do
that will get you far. That will get you like top 8, top 10, whatever. But to break that barrier, you need someone that's like, I want to fucking do this. This is fun to me. Like, I want to like pick the brains and outskill them. And Rory's that person. Like, if you meet him, like he every day he's just always talking about the game, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like through a lot of people, and a lot of really good fraggers. Like we brought in people who were just I thought were amazing. I'm surprised a lot of these people we tried out are not on teams right now. Like, for example, Freakazoid, we tried out for a few days. I thought he was a phenomenal fragger. He was a great entry. I thought he was amazing, but he didn't call, right? And we needed someone who would come in and call. And it was just like a lot of these people, they come in, they either want to co-IGL or they say they're IGLs, but it's like when stuff is hard, like they go quiet, right? And that's something that I noticed with Rory is he came in where like these other people would come in, like, what's your playbook? What kind of strats you want to call? Like, give me stuff to call, and I'd give them stuff to call, right? But Rory came in and he just had it. He would say, okay, you go here, throw this utility, throw that utility. He didn't even have to think about it. He was just, it's ingrained in his brain. He is a true IGL and he knows how to move the pieces around the map. And that's something that really impressed me when we tried him out and the reason that we ended up selecting him.
Yeah. It is a very specific skill. I mean, it really is. It's like some people just, after years and years, I mean, it's the experience as well, right? Like, he's got a ton of experience playing. And the other thing that I wanted to ask about when it comes to dephh is that I think there would be a very realistic criticism of him, saying that if he's the IGL and he likes to take a team and kind of mold it to how he wants it, his project, if you want to call it like that, with Dignitas was pretty much a failure. Like, they had good pieces and it didn't come out to do anything. Was that a concern for you at all? Did you look at that and go, well, if we give him reins of the team, like maybe we just end up like a Dignitas where we have a lot of good qualities, but it just flumps? Or was there enough kind of understanding there to give it a complete fresh sheet?
That was actually my main concern.
Yeah, me too.
Him and I were talking, and Dignitas didn't work, right? Like, it in the end, it failed. And then dephh was a free agent for a very long time, well, restricted free agent, but he was on the market for a very long time. Teams kept passing over him. So it's like, what is the problem? It felt like there was some sort of underlying problem. But, as we learned more about dephh and as we learned more about Dignitas, it really felt like it was an issue of like the pieces that he had around him.
Okay.
Rather than like him himself. And I think that a lot of teams passed over him due to that Dignitas thing. And he went so long, without a team, that it was kind of like everybody kind of had those same ideas, like, oh, maybe there's something wrong, we won't pick him up. But
right. And then by not picking him up, you're just perpetuating that.
Exactly.
cycle.
Yeah.
I mean,
It goes longer and longer, right? But in the end, we brought him in. Like I said, he was one of my main focus points when we even decided to bench Wyatt, is I want to try out dephh. So when we brought him in and saw what he could do after a few days, it was like, wow, this is phenomenal. Like, we need a leader like this who can move the chess pieces around the board, like in the middle of the game.
We tried him out the longest though. This is what I think is a big problem in the scene. It's like, especially fraggers, you try people out for a day. Like, what are you gonna see in a day? What are you gonna see in 2 days? Yeah. So like one of our lowest is like 2 days for tryouts.
Right.
dephh we tried out for a week or more, like 20, 30 scrims to make sure that like, those problems aren't like real. And I think like, trying out so hard though. It's like, you need a really good management. You need a good coach like Don, because like, someone comes in, right? They have a bad day. You play a bad team. You drop 30. Wow, this guy's fucking insane. Like, let's sign this guy right away. Sure. Oh, this guy comes in and drops 5 kills. Oh, he's just shit. But like, that's not true at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, and even fragging aside, with being an in-game leader, there is there's a mental aspect to that where it is also a tiring job where you have to be thinking. So there has to be such a deep thought about every single round that you can burn yourself out. And if a guy just has like great ideas for 2 days, and then after that it's just, we're just running the same rounds over and over, and we're we're hitting a brick wall now. It's like, you need a guy who's going to be committed to that for a long amount of time.
Earlier in the scene, like last year, I tried out for a couple of pro teams and they wanted me to IGL, but I was, like I said, I didn't play the game. I haven't been pro for like 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And they're like, you say you can IGL, so you come in the server and you don't know any of our players. You tell us what to do, and you run the show. And that was one of the most overwhelming experiences I've had in the past 2 years. Like, I'm like, what the fuck do? I don't know who's good at what. I don't know if this operator likes to take this angle. Yeah. And I didn't make the team as IGL because I was like, not comfortable at all. Yeah. And like, how can you test someone's skill like that? It's just very difficult,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and then the other big move that came along was picking up zekken, which was, I think, a surprise for a lot of people. I mean, it was a surprise for me. There was an infinite hype generator propelling zekken's name to the top. I mean, everybody was just talking about zekken all the time because of his success in the tier 2 scene over the past year. Yeah. And it seemed like, I don't know, it just seemed like you guys had a good roster, and I didn't expect any further moves past dephh. And then suddenly it was zekken comes in and you have a 6-man roster. And then obviously after that, Thwifo ends up getting benched. So I'm not exactly sure as to what was going on there. So maybe you can clear up just what was behind that decision.
Sure. So like we said, we tried out players for a month or more, and not just IGLs, right? Because there's not a lot of IGLs on the market, so we were kind of forced to try out everybody. We were trying out hard fraggers to see if maybe bringing in, someone with a lot of fragging potential could help us. If one of our existing members could continue to IGL or kind of spread the weight around like we had been. And zekken was one of those people that we brought in kind of last minute. Like, as we were kind of deciding that we wanted dephh, we got to try out with zekken and got to really see what he was made of, and we were just really impressed with how great he was, and not just like, you know, his mechanical prowess, but just as like an individual, as a player, like how he communicates, how he is as a teammate, how he approaches and thinks about the game. We were just all around impressed. And the fact that he is 16 years old going in as a junior in high school, it's like, wow, like this guy,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
you know, he can only get better. And even if he only gets a little bit better, that's still really freaking good, right? So it was one of those things where we were kind of discussing, like, how do we pass on this guy? Like, how do we pass over him? Like, yes, we need an IGL, but also this guy is amazing. So we kind of spoke about it as a team and with management. And obviously, like, the whole 6-man roster thing is, you know, it works or it doesn't, right? And I in the past in interviews have said I would never do a 6-man roster, but, you know, it was one of those things where it kind of made sense. And we talked about it as a team, and surprisingly, everybody on the team said, yeah, let's do a 6-man roster. It sounds like a great idea. And so, you know, that was the plan for a bit. We were going to kind of ease Zekken in and develop him over time, and just kind of give him time to develop into that player that we wanted him to be.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, did you try Zekken as IGL at all? Because I know he was IGL for Noble at some point. Was that ever a possibility?
So every time we try out someone, we ask them, like, can you IGL? Are you willing to IGL? Like, it's two things, right?
Sure.
Can you do it? Are you willing to do it?
Second one, very important. Yeah.
His was, yeah, I can do it. No, I don't want to do it. And we were like, that's fine. Like, come in and try out as a raise. And like, we'd scrimmed him against Noble with a different trial like 2 days beforehand, and he dropped 40 on us in bind. And we were like, wow, this kid's, you know, he's really good. So we brought him in as a fragger. And
That was a really funny story because like he tried out for us and then we scrimmed him and I dropped 33 on raise on him. And I was like, I typed easy in chat. And then the next day we played him again and he dropped 40 on me. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, come on.
That. So what? It sounds though like that move was much more opportunistic than the dephh move. Like the dephh move was calculated. We have a problem. We're looking for a solution. Zekken is like, holy shit, what's this?
Yeah.
And then you're like trying to sort stuff out to be able to fit him in.
yeah, it's like when you're like raiding a dungeon in like an MMO and you pick up a piece of gear, it's like, oh, I can't use this now. But let me, you know, I can't just leave this laying on the ground, right?
So, I mean, yeah, someone else picks him up.
Right, someone else is going to pick this up in like 2 days.
Then they're dropping 40s on you, and that's
Exactly.
a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was just one of those, like, we needed an IGL, but we also found this star-studded potential in Zekken, and we really wanted to pick him up and develop him long-term. Just, you know, at XSET, you know, from a managerial standpoint, the COO and I, like, we're really focused on winning right now. Like, that's a big thing for us, but we're also focused on developing a good program that will last into the future. We don't want to just be one of those teams that picks up players and we try and win and then it all kind of falls apart. Like, we want to develop into something that will be around for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So the story up until this point, though, is that people were on board for a 6-man roster, and that's what you tried. Mm-hmm. That's not what ended up happening, though. You guys have a 5-man roster. Zekken, I mean, I think Syyko is actually still signed to XSET, isn't he? He's listed as a sub or something.
Yeah, he's on loan to Andbox right now.
Right,
with
yes,
them in
of
Stage
course.
3.
But why did that 6-man roster not really work out? Why did you then transition into benching Syyko and going for Zekken full time?
That decision kind of came more from the top. You know, we were really sold as a team on the 6-man roster thing, but the management was not so much sold on the 6-man roster thing, and didn't really want to go forward with that after they mulled it over for a while. So, you know, it was kind of like a top-down thing where they said, you know, this is, we're kind of going to go back to a 5-man roster, and this is who it's going to be. And I said, okay, yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Do you feel like that's, I mean, is there anything that you think you've missed out by running a 6-man? They really haven't worked in Valorant so far, but do you think did you have any interesting idea of like what you were going to do to try and make that project function? Why was everybody so on board for it when it's, I mean, I don't think there's been a single successful instance apart from like the original Heretics roster in EU, and then even when we interviewed them, they said they didn't like it. It was just successful.
They
were just like, I mean, we're winning, but we don't like it.
Yeah, 6-man rosters are a weird thing, right? Because there's this interesting power dynamic of, am I going to play? How much am I going to play? Is my job on the line, right? And you never want that to be a motivation in any regards, because it's a negative reinforcement. And you don't want to do that. But the ideas that I had were really just bringing in someone so young, who's still in school for the next 2 years, who, you know, has prom night and finals and all these other things. Like the opportunity to kind of take it slow with him and develop him over time was something I was interested in. And with a game like Valorant, right, like it's very role specific, and people like Jordan, right, is probably the most flexible person in the game. Like someone like Jordan can flex around any agent and pick them up in 2-3 days, but we do have people on our team who really are just specialized in their role and only want to play that role. So bringing in someone who can kind of flesh that out and play, more situations. The ideas that I had were, A, like taking it slow at zekken, B, putting in pieces in different maps, based on what their strengths are. Like if they are strong on this role and we need this role for this map, then we're going to slot him in, right? Because with the structure of Valorant right now, it's something that you can currently do. You can swap people in and out between maps without any kind of penalty, right? As far as 6-man rosters, like the most successful one I know of is Vitality and EU and Counter-Strike, right? Who were running the 6-man roster with Nivera, but they ran into an issue where subbing players in and out between maps was actually penalizing them in the current system. And they had to dissolve the system, right? Even though it was very successful and it was working for them, they would bring him in when they needed an extra opper on a map. And that was working very well, but they weren't able to continue forward with it. So in Valorant, being able to do that is something that I wanted to take advantage of.
Okay. Interesting idea. I mean, especially with a younger player like that makes sense. Do you have any concerns then along that kind of avenue? I mean, he is a really young guy, and when you're young like that, your life changes much faster than when you're old and settled and have grandkids like dephh. Is there any concern of like, okay, this guy's very young, like he doesn't have as much time to commit? Is there any?
He was here for a boot camp this week, and he's flying out today. But he's the most mature 16-year-old you'll ever meet. Like I said, who wears like dress shirts and polos when you're 16? Like that's just suave. He's mature. Yeah. Like he has funny tweets and he posts some memes, but like the guy is. I think Rory said, dephh said, like this guy's like 20, isn't he? Like
right.
This guy's 16, but he's just a smart kid. Like I think he's like a straight A student. He just super on top of everything.
Right.
Like the other day, he had a PC problem. This guy ran to the store to buy a new PC. He's like, I'm not skipping practice. Like, I can't skip practice. So he ran to the store, bought a new PC, and then played the scrims. And that, like, to me, is like, if I was 16, I'd be like, oh, fuck, like, just cancel the scrims.
Yeah, that's wild. What is this? What have you pulled up here, Kurt?
We went to what was that, Austin's Pizza and Park or whatever yesterday with... had some arcade fun. So yeah, he flew out this week with his parents, right, for boot camp, and we were just kind of showing him, this is what XSET's about, and this is like what happens when he comes out to the house, stuff like that. But like he was saying, he's just really mature. It's something that I had concerns about before, or like as we were picking him up, like, oh, this guy's young, like he's gonna have like time constraints, and maybe he won't be mature in certain areas enough to like kind of handle the stress and certain situations that we may get into, but. A lot of those concerns have been alleviated just by seeing, how mature he himself is and just how great his support system is from his parents. Because his parents came out and they're just really on top of things. They're really supportive of his gaming, and they want to make sure that he makes all the right decisions and does well, right? So like his dad will text me in the morning like, hey, what time's practice today? I'll make sure he's awake, stuff like that. So. It's really great.
That's very sweet. I like cool. that.
Yeah. So what is the situation with him then in regards to being in Austin? Given that he still has to graduate and all that. Yeah,
he lives in New Jersey with his parents, so he flies out for boot camps, he'll fly out for tournaments, he'll fly out for events and stuff like that. But other than that, he'll have to continue living in New Jersey until at least he's done with school.
Okay.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
The other major thing that this did, though, is it shifted your role around quite significantly, AYRIN. I mean, you went from being the duelist player, like the secondary guy, I would say, being like playing the Rays, not necessarily like hard entering all the time. Moving to playing Cypher, Killjoy, Viper, like that's a very different role shift.
Yeah, like combining that with thing about like IGL, I looked at it the same way. It's like there's how many pros are people that are willing to play multiple agents, and if they are they being forced onto it, or are they like saying I want to play it? And
not a lot.
Like
not a lot.
The first two I can name on top of my head is Zoms. Like, this is when we look back at like the Astra meta, right? Because I played Astra for Challengers 2 when we qualified. And I looked at like who is playing Astra full time and willing to take that hit. Because Astra was, I don't know, how do you play Astra? Like when it first came out, I was like, is this agent even good? And then like the ACS was awful though. Like that was one number that everyone was worried about. Like if you play Astra, you're going to be bottom of the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Most of the time. And then I saw Zoms do it. He did really well. because he's willing to take a blow for his team. That's why I think people underestimate him. He's willing to do things that other people aren't.
The team needs someone who's going to be a supportive player.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's got to do it. Yeah.
You can't put 5 Jett mains on a team.
Yeah.
And then I saw Vanity do it. Vanity also took the blow. And then no one else really in the scene was willing to like play Astra full time and commit to it. And then I guess the difference between me and me, those guys and me and other players is that I like playing new roles because it's exciting. And I love like playing with Thwyfo was also really good because he played Sentinel a lot, and he'd always have these crazy ass setups that like I didn't even know what was happening. That was his
very nerdy setup.
That was his trademark.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try it, and then we played with Matt. Matt was an insane Viper. Like he was kind of the guy who we kind of started the
He was
whole
like
Viper.
the Viper before people played it.
He was like the only Viper on VLR. And he when he was on my team, he was like, I'm the best Viper in the world. I'm like, let me pull up VLR. I pull it up. He's like, yeah, you are the fucking best.
Yeah.
You're the only one.
You're the only Viper.
But then I saw that and I was like, so like when it comes to role swapping, I don't mind. And I always tell Don this. He's like, I'm like, give me a week. Like I need a week to like watch demos and like steal from other players. I think that's what people don't do enough. It's like, yeah, I need to steal from people and then put my own spin on it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And I love supporting, and I love playing. Like, come on, nothing's more fun than playing duelists or in ranked or in a match because you can do what the fuck you want. I'm going here, but yeah, and then people have to support you and run after you. But naturally, I'm more supportive because I like to play timings and like cheeky corners and like I use a Spectre a lot. If you guys know, like I like to play really cheeky. I don't like to like.
Yeah,
I mean,
even when you're playing Raze, every fight you took involved you satcheling across at a guy. Like there's
Like these kids are cracked. Like you have like what 10s. You have Yaster recently. Yeah, Boy Dre yesterday.
Yeah,
I love that guy.
Yeah, just dropping aces left, right, and center.
I'm not gonna swing that guy head on, bro. Why?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Like even if it's. I'll only like this is what people need to understand. Like you only swing those type of players when they're swinging into an angle you really like playing. Like I've played this angle in ranked 500 times. I know it doesn't matter if 10 swings or anyone swings. I'm gonna shoot him in the head. It's gonna be a fair fight. But it's not fair if I'm just in the open and he's in the open. Like, do you see this guy's aim lab score, man? Like this guy connecting the dots. But like answering your questions, like I enjoy doing it.
Right.
And the main reason why I enjoy doing it is because nobody's doing it, and I like doing things people aren't willing to do. Like,
yeah.
Can you explain your process a bit more in terms of like the watching VODs and looking for stuff? Like if you're going into learning your most recent role swap, so you're going for mostly playing Duelist and mostly playing Cypher, Killjoy, Viper, that kind of stuff. Are you relying on former teammates? Are you looking at VODs of the best players in your region? Are you looking for VODs of people like nerdy people in Korea or Europe or something? Like what's your process for learning an agent and getting good at it? Because I feel like that aspect is also super applicable to anyone who's watching this show as well, who's just looking to learn a new agent for anything.
Well, the first thing that you do is like you look at your teammates for sure, right? So I looked at a couple of Thwyfo VODs.
Okay.
And then to branch out is like I look at the high ACS Cyphers and Killjoys, not because I think they have the most impact on the team, because when you role swap, it's not only about putting this ACS number up, it's about actually like, are you using your utility to support your team, or are you using your utility just to fucking kill people? You know, like I can have a high ACS on Cypher if all I do is use my trips for myself. But you realize like Killjoy and Cypher, like you have to put them for your teammates, right?
Right. Yeah.
Set plays up. So I looked at high ACS Cyphers. What are they doing? How are they getting the value and supporting their team properly? And then I'll look at people who are getting a lower ACS that are much more strategic, like FNS and like Dapper. They're not necessarily like on top of the scoreboard all the time, but what are they doing right? And then I look in the middle between. It's like, okay, I got to do a little bit of that and a little bit of this. And then what helps a lot is Rory. So like Rory still, he plays Cypher on certain maps. Yeah. So when I'm stuck a lot, I literally just ask him like, dude, like, should I put my trip here or should like I put my cage here? And he'll help me. So like combining the VODs, combining my own problem solving skills, combining with my IGL, asking Don, do you think this is a better trip? Because he's watching so he can see what my teammates are doing and if it's helping them. And if you combine everything together, every small little thing together, then you have a masterpiece. Yeah. It's fucking beautiful. And it's actually fun to play the game at that point.
Yeah.
No, go on.
I played Cypher like when I was on Echo 8 and I was IGing for that team. Our roster was in shambles, and we had to play a tournament with TSM in Prime, Sentinels, And no one wants to play Cypher. And I played Cypher at that one tournament for 10 maps. It was the worst fucking experience of my life. I played so bad. I literally went in the room and I was about to cry. I was like, this is just awful. I'm awful. I'm a bad player.
Yeah.
But like, when you have a good team, playing support roles is just so enjoyable. Like, when I'm on the bottom of the scoreboard and like my 16-year-old fragger and PRR is just like dropping 30s, I'm just like, wow, this is the life. Like, this is just, this is free, you know?
Straight shit.
Yeah.
Don't have to put in, don't have to get all the kills. Don't have to, I mean, it's another role that can often, kind of like the IGL, be sort of thankless. I mean, you don't get the same, I guess, limelight as if you're just the guy that's dropping 30 every map, but at the same time, it's, I think also for for players coming up, it's a good space for them to fit into as well. Like, if more people attempted to be diverse and a flex, diverse in their agent roles, that would help them a lot with actually getting up and say, I mean, how many good duelists are out there? I mean, there's a million. And this is a point that I keep going to, is that if you can be a great player and frag out while being on a supportive role, there's so much more value to me in that right now than if you're just another I play Jett. I mean, there's just, how many do we need?
I mean, go on Reddit, go on VLR, go on any website you want, right? Who are the top 30 players in NA or the world? Jett, Raze, Reyna. It's like, it's becoming pretty bad. It's like all the tier 2 players that become pros are like duelist turned this, duelist turned that, duelist turned this. But like, it's like, do you really want to play support? And then they join a pro team and sometimes it collapses because they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
They're just
on the
doing it.
management or coaching staff of those teams, they're looking at ACS numbers like, oh, this guy can put up this number on Jett. Probably he can do it on Omen too. And a lot of times it's just not the case.
Yeah.
Do you think that you're kind of future-proofing yourself as well? Like, is this just, in your opinion, is there going to be a future in this game, near or far away, where any player is just going to have to know how to play 4 or 5 roles? Is that an inevitability, do you think?
100%. What do you think?
I mean, I guess maybe a better question is, when do you think that would be the case? Because it actually seems like we're already getting there now. And I don't think it's being acknowledged enough. And I think that already players are getting phased out that can only play 1 or 2 roles. Like, even though they didn't make it through the first qualifier, I still really enjoy watching Gen.G. And I like that their coach MCE has them playing, all of them are playing like 3, 4 roles. Mm-hmm. And it's working, at least to the extent that, I mean, they still came in like 5th in the qualifier. They didn't make it through, but they had a tough bracket. They lost to Envy. I'm not mad at that. And they did it with I mean, they had like 3 different players playing Viper and 1 BO3. But I feel like we're already getting there. Do you agree with that?
100%. Like, this is what I was telling him. It's scary. Like, look at the game a year from now. Every 2 months, it seems like teams are making better changes. Yeah. The people are getting smarter. You remember like watching like TSM step on people last year? It was like rush A, rush B. Yeah. Oh fuck. Let's go B and then A. Like,
I remember watching the TSM Sentinels game and just being like, whoa, they're actually using their utility to push the AWP off the angle pretty well. Like, that's pretty good. That was the pinnacle of gameplay back in like July, August.
And I think a small benefit to what you were saying about the Viper is just like, if you know how to use the character like abstractly, you know how your main Viper uses it, so you can play together better. Because there's a lot of times where people play Viper and it's just like, dump everything in one place for myself. But then if you play it and then I play it and then he plays it, we can kind of like bond a little bit over that, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's
becomes more of like a group effort.
Yeah,
right?
it's beneficial.
Like your role and how you play it isn't just 100% on you. It's you and your teammates who understand the role, your coach who understands the role. You're working together to find the best way to use each piece together as a team. And a lot of people just forget about that sometimes. But I do think that that's coming up, right? Like, especially now that this double duelist meta seems to be kind of like fading as the initiators start creeping in more and more. You know, I even saw some teams in this last qualifier running triple initiator on some maps with KO, Sky, and Sova. So like the duelist one tricks are going to fade, and they're going to be forced to learn these support roles, or these up and coming support players are going to take their spots.
I want to talk a little bit about your qualification run this time around, because the definition of XSET so far throughout the whole of your team's history underneath that banner is you qualify first time, What you do in the main event is up and down, but you qualify first time. And this time around, you did it again. You qualified, and I think in spectacular fashion. I mean, this was an insanely good qualification process for you, capping it off with that win over Sentinels as well. I think that was the specific game that got you into the top 4 in that qualifier as well, wasn't it? So can you talk me through a little bit about like what the atmosphere was like in the team entering this tournament? Because you've been trialing a bunch of different people. You've settled on people that you want. You've now narrowed it down to a 5-man roster, and you've got your core. Heading into this game, you know you're going up against Rise, who just beat Cloud9. They looked a little scary. Then you've got Sentinels on your side of the bracket. Like, to me, this actually looks like a pretty fucking hard bracket to be able to get through.
Yeah, I mean, going into this, it took a long time to finalize the Zekken deal with Noble and their management. So, you know, by the time that we worked that deal out, and then our management told us about the Thwifo thing, like, we had 3 practice days with Zach to actually like become a team, right, and be ready for this qualifier. So like our expectations going into this were, we want to continue this streak. We want to qualify first time, obviously, like who doesn't? Yeah. But at the same time, like, let's kind of set the bar a little bit lower because we only have 3 days with this new roster, right? So we kind of went into this really confident and just kind of loose, right? But it's honestly a testament to Rory's IGL ability and just the flexibility of our entire roster to like move into these roles. Like, that means he only had 3 days to learn Killjoy, you know, which he had played a little bit in the past, but then I said, look, we need Cypher on some of these maps, and he's like, you know, flexing on a Cypher like for the first time, you know, in these qualification tournaments. So, you know, just going into it, like we weren't really expecting to make as deep a run as we did. We're obviously happy that we did, and we knew that we had the potential with this roster to do it. We just didn't expect it all to come together so fast. But
Rory, also a big shout out to like Bryce and BCJ. It's like the core, right? Like me, Bryce, and BCJ is, you know, it feels good to be able to do it again together. Yeah. And BCJ had to flex too.
Yeah, BCJ flexed on the Viper for a map and is off of Sova for some of that. So like it's really just everything coming together in just the right way. Like, we knew that with making these moves, we'd really have exactly the roster we needed and filled a lot of these gaps that we felt like we've had for a while. And it's just amazing that it just came together as quick as it did, honestly. And it's really just everybody individually on this team is excellent in their role. You know, BCJ is an excellent Sova with the potential to flex on the Viper. He's an excellent flex player who can move over to different roles last minute to accommodate new players. Zach is an excellent up and coming player who can come in and provide immediate impact on Sky, which is a character that he hadn't even played prior to joining the roster.
Really?
Yeah, he hadn't played it at all.
It was like, can you play Sky? He's like, I could do it. I'm like, are you sure? Like, I asked him, like, just play Raze if you're uncomfortable. He's like, yeah, I'll try it. And
yeah, I thought that was impressive as well, because, well, like we were talking about before, there's a lot of just duelist players that they can play duelist, but they look uncomfortable when you push them outside of that, and they can't do what they're known for. They don't have the flexibility or the mobility as well to be able to take those duels and be able to escape as easily. But he looked killer on the Sky.
Yeah, we knew we wanted Sky on some of these. And that's something that we liked about him is, like, yeah, you're this insane young duelist, but you've also played a lot of Sova, so you understand how to be, you know, in the back supporting your team as well. So playing an agent like Sky, which is really just kind of a fusion of, you know, that Sova play style while also kind of being up in front and fragging out like a duelist and flashing your team in. He just excelled at it because, you know, at first we thought maybe we'd have to put him on Sova temporarily and move BCJ over to the Sky, because BCJ himself is a very flexible guy. You know, we don't get to see it a lot because we run Sova on every map just about, but, you know, he has a lot of flex potential as well. But, you know, Zekken's ability to come in and learn an agent in 3 days, his ability to learn an agent in 3 days, and then all of this to just come together with Rory's excellent IGLing and make this deep qualification run and beat Sentinels, you know, to qualify first time. It's amazing. But, you know, no one knows better than us that, yeah, we did this, but we did this last time too, right? We went and lost to 100 Thieves in that best of 5 and Challenger 1 as well. So like, we took second place and then, you know, didn't do too well in Challenger finals. So like, yeah, we had this great qualification run. We're really happy about it, but now it's like, this is the showtime, right? We still have a lot to prove. We need to show that we can do better than 8th, 7th place in Challenger finals this time around.
Yeah, it's just a bit upsetting, you know, reading around the public. Like, when we win and we qualify, it's not like no one on this team goes like, yeah, we're the fucking best team. We're the number 2 team in NA. Like, we get happy. We're like, wow, like we had a good run, boys. But that's about it. Like, it's not as crazy as people think. It's not like we're going around typing to our friends, "Hey mom, like I just beat Sentinels in a qualification match. Oh, last time I beat MV in a seeding match." It's not like it all comes back to the final thing. It's like, what are we here for? Are we trying to come top 4 in NA, or are we trying to win a world championship, right? Like, and for most of the people on this team, if not all, I think we're trying to win a world championship. So like, beating them in a qualification match feels good, gives us confidence, gives me confidence. But like, it's not like we're like running around saying we're the best, because we're clearly not. If we were the best, if we were better than all these teams that we're beating in qualification matches, we should be able to do it in the final stage, right?
Right. Yeah, you shouldn't even have to celebrate that you beat them in this stage at that point, right?
Does it feel different this time around, though? Because last time, when you've been doing this previously, it's been with your former roster. It's not like this roster has actually had that occur. You've never qualified with this roster and then flopped in the main event. That hasn't been a thing. And with the IGLing and the added firepower as well, did you get the feeling going through this qualifier, oh, this is something different? Or is it still in the back of your head like, it's not different until we actually put up the results?
It's a mix of both, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the best phrase is like, going into Challenger Finals, we're cautiously optimistic, right? Because last time around, obviously it was a different roster, but I feel like there was a level of complacency where we qualified, we took second place in that Challenger event, and then we kind of stagnated for a bit, went into Challenger Finals and just got shredded, right? And we're trying to not allow that to happen. Like, it does feel different. It feels like we really have a lot of these gaps addressed. And we're taking out like bigger opponents in these qualification runs this time around than in the last. And it feels really good. Like, it feels like everything's really clicking. But at the same time, we don't want to get complacent again. We want to keep working. We want to keep innovating and expanding the playbook going into Challenger Finals, because we don't want to be this team that's like, we made these roster moves, everything's fixed. Like, let's just chill and hang out until Challenger Finals, and then we'll go in and just see what happens. Like, we are still working hard. We just boot camped for 7 days straight. Like, this past week with Zach in town, again, just putting in 6 to 8 hours a day for 6-7 days, making sure that we're as prepared as we can be going into this Challengers final.
When I was watching this game, it felt to me like you guys were so fucking prepped for what Sentinels wanted to do. Like, especially on Haven, which to me has been Sentinels' dominant map. It's like where their information style and their ability to be confidently rotating people around the map, it's where they look the best. And they had insane performances at Reykjavik, for example, as well. And then when I was watching this game, the pistol round exec, like these C execs where you're just spamming the crap out of Dapper's smokes, that people are going to be pathing the logs, you're sky flashing to ensure there's someone there, and then double shock darting them. It seemed to me like there was a lot of prep involved in this as well. Was it just on the fly, or was this actually like we knew exactly what Sentinels were doing at all times?
Well, I prep for every opponent, right? Like, every time we're going into a match, I prep very hard. But with Sentinels in particular, the overall feeling was, we're prepping for this, but also in order to beat a team like this, we have to play our game and just be better than them, right? Like, we have to adapt to what they're doing, because they're so dynamic. Like, you can VOD review them lots of times, right? But they're going to do different things each time. They're just so diverse in what they do, right? Like, if there was a ability to sit down and watch all their VODs and just come in with nerdy strats and counter strat them, someone would have done it already. One of these EU teams would have done it in Iceland. Yeah.
It's like, watch these VODs and you can beat the best team in the world. It doesn't work in the NBA. It doesn't work in the NHL. Like, you can't just VOD review. So, like Don just said, the only way we were going to beat them is play our own style. And I think this is a great example of us playing at our peak, or like our highest potential, and then maybe playing at 80-90%. Like, maybe they weren't at their peak that game because they didn't feel like it. And I love you, Josh, because I watched your analysis last week. But there's a round where we Astra Wall and double shock dart, and Josh was like, these guys know. Like, these guys have prepped this setup. They know he goes to logs. No, there's no fucking chance that we're like, yo, this guy, when we Astra Wall, this guy creeps in the logs, we double shock dart this guy, we flash
just a feeling intuition in the moment.
It's just having all the right pieces, right? Like, Rory put up a good Astra Roll. Zach had the intuition to know, okay, there's a gap. Someone could have crept up logs, so he popped the flash there. And BCJ heard it, and he knows, okay, someone's there. I'm going to shock dart this. It's just 3 different people coming together with their individual prowess and just all the right pieces clicking together.
Definitely. I do want to ask you then, Aaron, as well. In this game specifically, or just in the run generally, when you're playing out the attack sides, what do you feel the major difference is now versus before? Because I felt like that was I felt like over anything else in this tournament, that was the most significant difference that had put you in a position where you beat Sentinels and had a great run.
It's all about the info game, right? That's what I think Rory specializes in. It's like we're everywhere and all the time. And I don't know, some guy posted a pretty mean comment about me on YouTube. He said, everyone must hate AYRIN. He must be the most annoying rank player because he's lurking. And I think like that's what we were missing, like the fakes. And I don't know, like you guys saw it too. We were just one-dimensional. We were like rushing a site. Oh crap, we're stuck here. Let's just wait 30 seconds. They don't know we're just hiding here. We're gonna hit again.
That was the XSET special.
It was the XSET special, and like the difference now is just like people are always guessing where we're going, and I think people have a notion of what they think dephh calls. Oh, does dephh call fakes? Does dephh not call fakes? That's just an added element of like confusion to them, right? And people just don't know what we're doing a lot at the time, I think. It's because we're always spreading the map, and we're able to spread the map now with the added firepower because we don't mind taking the 1v1s. If you're gonna push to try and find out if we're there, then be my guest.
And alongside that as well, I felt like every time Sentinels were making an aggressive map play to take some space, you guys would just re-clear it immediately after. Like you just retook that space instantly. There was just there was no fear about it. There was like you were just playing with confidence and you were always in control on the attack side in that regard.
Yeah, in the former roster we were really good. Like we were a really good side hit team. Like we could run it down on teams, but teams that could sufficiently stall us and slow us down were the teams that we really struggled against. And that's why we kept swapping the IGL around role wise and trying to figure out like who can really like be that person who, you know, a minute 15 to 45 seconds in the round is like piecing together the information and really calling a play for us, right? Because your set pieces can't come into effect when you go down 1 to 2 players and you have certain information you have to work off of. So bringing in Rory, who you know, is a phenomenal IGL and can really slow it down against some of these good teams, it really like fleshed out that missing piece for us. So we can still run it down and be a side hit team. And then we can mix it up and slow it down when we need to against teams who are going to take it more slow and then get the information we need and work off of it.
I think what people didn't understand about this match was that they won all the pistols.
Yeah.
They won all the pistols. And we
really?
I didn't we looked back and we saw that like they like between map 1 and map 3, the maps we won, they won like 4 or 5 gun rounds. So like this is like I said, this is us playing at, you know, potentially what we could play at all the time, and them maybe not playing at their hottest, but it was just a fucking fun match. This match and the 100 Thieves match was just like I was shaking the whole time. I was like, wow, this is exciting. Like let's get the show on the road.
The Haven victories definitely felt good though, because even when we matched up against them again in the finals, we did lose 1 and 3 in that best of 5, but we took Haven off of them again, which is supposed to be their best map. So like our ability to adapt and play a dynamic play style is immensely improved over how it used to be.
Yeah. I think people are underrating Astra. That's just an aside.
Dude,
you were one of the only teams. You were one of the teams still running her, and I swear people are underrating her so hard after the nerf. But
we were practicing like 2 days before the patch even hit, and we were playing against this other team, and their coach was like DMing me like, why did you pick Astra? Like, you know it's going to be nerfed. She's not going to be that good, because the play test for KO had already come out, and everybody saw like all these changes. It's like, I really don't think Omen's that much better than Astra even after the nerf. And I think we definitely saw that like over this qualifier. I think Astra still brings an immense amount of value, especially if you're running like Viper alongside her. Yeah. But even just as a solo smoker, like, and with the playstyle that our controller Rory plays, Astra is just a phenomenal character still. Like even without the ability to insta-suck in A main or whatever it may be, like her nerfs were pretty heavy, but I think it really just brought her down from being like overpowered to being good. Like she's still very good, and I think that if she matches your play style, then she is just as good, if not better, than Omen.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing before like the next segment is it's just funny, right? Like we beat them to qualify, and you know I'm just saying this about like the public and the perceptions. Like it's like maybe they weren't like playing at their peak, right? But these guys haven't lost a series since April. They're world champions. Do you think, as a competitor, these guys go, oh, whatever, like, we'll just, like, lose this one. It doesn't really matter. Like, there's no chance that these guys were not trying. And then, when we played them in the finals, if we win...
Pop off.
If we win, it's a seeding match. If we win, it's a seeding match. oh, whatever, it's a seeding match. Sentinels wasn't really trying, like, whatever. But if they beat us, they're still the best team in the world. It's just very, like...
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's why it's the main event where you have to perform.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because these qualifier games, people don't.
I can just guarantee that in that finals where they beat us 3-1, you can't say they weren't trying. I think they were trying harder than the first match they played against us because...
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Who, like, a world champion, I love those guys. Those guys are all, like, solid players, great guys, but, like, they don't want to lose no matter what. Like, you think people just...
Nobody competing wants to lose. Right. I think... People have this idea in their mind that it's like when you play, it's binary. You're either trying or not trying, which is just not. First of all, that's not how humans do anything.
Yeah.
Like that's just not how you approach things of this nature as a human. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's on some scale, right?
Yeah.
Where you're saying it's like they could be at like 90%, like maybe like tens might be just. Kind of just feeling it and like taking swings that if it was the Iceland finals, he wouldn't be taking. But that doesn't mean, it's not.
He's still trying to hit his shots. He's not swinging and going shooting at the sky. He's still trying to win. They're just not quite as like hyper focused and disciplined as they would be if they were taking, the champions final or whatever.
100%. That's what.
Yeah. But yeah, it's it is, I think, going to be fun to see all of those teams clashing at the main event. Because then everyone knows for every match that everything is on the line to be able to get to Berlin.
No, but like, maybe they don't want to go Berlin. Maybe these teams, maybe those teams just want to put the last chance qualifier in the Worlds. Like,
Dapper doesn't like Germany. I've heard that actually, so he's probably not going to try.
They're just saving for the last chance qualifier for California or whatever.
Free LA trip.
Yeah,
we don't want. Yeah, let's go to LA for free instead.
I've heard Waddell likes streaming, and that's why TSM are losing. He just prefers streaming, so he just doesn't try in the games.
Yeah, they didn't seem particularly excited in that clip where they won that match. They weren't happy about that at all.
Talking about the Astra changes a little bit, I did want to ask your opinion on KO as well. You said earlier that people were playing some triple initiator too, and a bunch of the other teams have been trying it. It does not seem to be getting major value compared to the level that it was hyped up, because it does look on paper to be a very powerful agent. The knife goes through walls. It's not like a recon die. It can hit you. Like it on paper, when you look at it and when you see it play tested, you think, okay, this has got immense potential. You're getting info, you're shutting people down. It's got value. But then when you see it in a match, it really doesn't seem to be generating the theoretical value in practice. What are your thoughts on that? On KO being introduced to the meta? Because we were thinking it might be a KO meta. It doesn't look like it.
We had some mixed opinions in the coming. I always want to give the new agent a good week or two try of let's practice him against other teams. Let's see what other teams are doing against us. Like, how good is this agent, right? And going into it, I was very hesitant. I always say it's not always about what you're gaining, it's also about what you're giving up. And in this case, for KO, you're either giving up when you're duelist, you're giving up your Sky if you're running Sky, or you're giving up your Sentinel and playing Sentinelist, like I see some of these teams are doing. But the knife really has to be timed perfectly to get an immense amount of value out of it. Like, you do get information, but then the information is gone, right? You really have to time the knife as they're executing the site to get the full effect of, I know where they are and they can't use their utility as they're executing our site. And I just haven't really been impressed with A, how we were using her, or B, how anybody else was using her against us. It never felt oppressive. It never felt like, oh, we have to have this. It's one of those agents that's this is cool, but I feel like there's other agents we can use for our play style that is a bit better.
It's like Breach or Yoru, right? It's just when you look at it, you're like, holy crap, this could work. But then it's very clunky. I see a lot of people compare KO to Breach. It has to be picture perfect, like Don was saying. I feel like it has to be I'm gonna dart, I'm going to dagger, you guys are gonna rush, boom. But then you can't really do that against Astra. Who else is a very big delay character?
Viper.
The Viper.
Sage.
So you have this perfect idealistic approach to taking the site, but I throw a Viper molly and you're like, oh fuck, cancel. And people aren't I'm watching these streams, especially the matches yesterday, I don't see the flash being the flash
is not good.
No.
But
it's just not so good. It's one of those characters where if you're going to utilize it, you can't just be Breach and throw your flash to the wall wherever you see it. You can't be Sky and just pop it in midair wherever you want it to pop. You have to know I want my flash to pop here, so I have to have a lineup from back over here that makes it pop. Otherwise, if I'm throwing it too close, you can turn it. It's just way too easy to turn, kind of like a Counter-Strike flash. You have to have these pop flash lineups. So you become this hard support where you're so far back from your team that A, you can't capitalize on your own flash, and B, you also need to kind of flex somebody else forward to enter into the site because you're in the back flashing for your team.
And you've given up the duelist in order to do that.
Exactly.
Anyway,
so you have this one, you have like your Jett dashing in and you're in the back throwing your pop flash, right? And then your Sova's in the back throwing his lineups, and then your Omen or your Astra's in his astral form, like doing his thing, and then Jett's like out on site, like, what the fuck, guys? Like, I need some help.
Yeah.
And I remember, yeah, it is wild how quick the things change, though. I remember the first 2 days, it was just, holy shit, this is a better Phoenix.
Hope the internet.
I mean, it's definitely not a better Phoenix.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't seem
even
like
even in regards to the ult. I mean, people were concerned about that, and it's a good ult, but
It's like, hey, I'm here though. It's like, yo, I'm here.
We're
Yeah.
executing this site,
And-
you know?
Yeah.
and there's a big difference between when
Puts
you're
a
Phoenix
target on your
and
head
you
as
just
well.
Yeah.
and when you're a Phoenix and you die in the ult form and then you get rezzed back where you were and you can immediately
Reset,
play the
cancel.
game still.
Yeah.
Versus just being on the ground waiting for someone to res you and give you a fucking jug. It's way different. It is way different.
Do you know when they res, the whole map can hear exactly where they're resing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not it's not what people thought it was going to be, which is I mean, I feel like this keeps happening now with every new agent that gets added, or at least to some extent,
Well,
where they seem powerful
Ebbing and
and
flowing,
then
'cause,
But
like,
but with Sky, it seemed powerful. People didn't figure out how to get the best use of a kit until what are we now? 6 months later
Yeah,
or something?
yeah.
And now people,
And buff.
even after she's been
Slightly
she's,
buffed,
yeah, she's been. But even when she was buffed to like 3 flashes, people in NA weren't really using her. She was getting used in Europe quite a lot, but not really in North America. And now, I guess you could argue she's been nerfed because she has 2 flashes, but one's on cooldown. I don't really think that's a nerf or whatever, but I think it's more to do with people realizing her value and figuring out how to use her. I guess she has actually been buffed most recently with the pop flash kind of thing, where you can keep your gun out and flash.
the dog.
Yeah, pulling your gun out, and then the line of sight for the dog is now.
The line of sight is just crazy. I mean, you just get so much more info from the dog now.
But I do think there's potentially something like that at play, where maybe when people figure out a different way of playing it that isn't intuitive, there's like some way to get value out of KO that's not what people have figured out with it as yet. There was one team in North America. Was it Gen.G playing KO? No, maybe someone was playing it against Gen.G. I can't remember the game. Yeah, but there was someone was. I remember Mike talking about it as well, throwing the knife and trying to exec off the person that they'd hit with the knife, like trying to deliberately target the Sentinel and busting into a site based off that. And it's just, you throw the knife up, if you don't find anything, all right, well, that's, it's just a wasted ability. If you do, then okay, you can go for a fast hit.
I think in the future you'll see like some of these savants come out, because like I said, it's a very lineup dependent character, and it's very hard support. So I think you'll see in the future people who just have all the lineups for every single map, and they play more of a support role, so they're in the back already for their team. I think you'll see some of those come out, but I don't think it'll really happen until either Silver or Sky gets nerfed a little bit, because right now those two are so strong, it just doesn't seem feasible to run the others, right? Because like you were saying with the Sentinel, like you're executing with the knife or even with your ult. Like we learned within a day or two, like if your Sentinel is on the site and you're worried about the KO interrupting your stall ability, you just throw your traps down and then you sit back a bit in a weird spot that they're not going to hit you with their knife, and they can't reach you with the ult if they start to exec in. You could still stall that execute really efficiently.
I want to ask a bit about your Sentinel usage on Breeze as well, the Cypher Killjoy Breeze composition, because you were saying earlier, like Rory Def does actually play Cypher for you on some of the maps. This is one of them where he goes back to what he was playing and is able to pick up the Sentinel role again. This to me seems like a composition that's very good at the beginning of the map, because it just completely shuts down any kind of flanking opportunity for anyone. It just, when I'm watching the like mini map of you guys walking around the map, when you're playing your attack rounds, there's so much shit to let you know if anyone's flanking that you can commit 5 people to a site and never once does anyone have to look behind you at any point. It's just we can slow work an entire half of the map. Is that kind of the theory behind it, or is there something else as well that made you want to lean into Cypher and Killjoy?
I mean, you're pretty much hitting it. I'm pretty heavy-handed with like the compositions that we run and who plays what, and I'd love to take credit for this one, but honestly, this was Rory's idea. And when he first said it, I was kind of like, talking about, man?
Yeah, I mean, it
Surely not, right?
sounds weird.
But because for a while when we were trying to find our identity on Breeze, we weren't playing any Sentinels at all because it seemed to be what everybody else was doing. And then we played Gen.G one time, and Nature like had these ridiculous trips in water, and we kept running into him like, what the f-? And we realized, okay, Killjoy's really good. And then Roy said, well, Cypher's really good. And Roy said, well, what if we run them both? And I said, that's weird, but whatever. Like if somebody has an idea like that, I like to at least give it a shot. Yeah, you try it and see what happens. And we won a scrim, and then we won another scrim. We won another scrim. And obviously, like winning scrims isn't your objective, but just how oppressive we were with that style was just ridiculous. And it really is just like you have such a big map, and your first instinct is, oh, the map's so big, I can't find a value in my Sentinel. But if you're approaching it in, it's a big map and we're trying to make it smaller, the more Sentinels you have, the more information utility you have in, you're shrinking the map down, and you're really giving yourself a lot more information on what's going on. And especially on attack side, like with the meta for this map, it's really like, if you're going A, it's kind of like old school Icebox, or even some teams still play it this way. You go A and you're just all 4 or 5 of your players are at A for a really long time, like as you're trying to bust into the site. So if you have all this Sentinel utility in mid and B, you really have a lot of information on if they've pushed up and the ability to kind of cancel off of A and go back over to B or whatever it may be, as well as just obviously a really dominant and oppressive stall ability on the defense as well.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that funny though? Like I was talking to a lot of pros about this map. It's like, if you have a big map, don't you want more Sentinels so you can cover more ground?
But, I mean, yeah, it does make sense
on paper, right?
On paper, yeah. It does. There's a logic to that, yeah.
But then everyone I talked to was just like, oh, you can't play Sage, she's useless. You can't play, I'm just very curious to where people come up with these theories. It's like, unless you try it or like do a pros and cons list, I think you'll never really know. I think that's the only way to approach it, right? Is to try it yourself.
It's quite an unusual approach running the Cypher and the Killjoy, because a lot of their utility is dedicated on the attack side is not useful for being able to get you into the site. But
100%.
It seems like you have quite a slow approach. You're not running some crazy like pops into the site where you're throwing utility all over the place, because I mean, what do you even have to throw? Like a flash from the sky. That's about it. And the wall from the Viper. But it does feel like it's much more about kind of slow work in the important areas of the map,
Fucking shot in the back,
It allows us to take and really just have that information, right? Because a lot of teams, they're forced into these quick site hits, because if they get stuffed and they want to cancel out, now you got to go re-clear spawn, you got to go re-clear mid, you got to check that angle from the long double doors angle, and you got to work your way back over to B and re-clear that window area, underneath window, that little rat spot. Like we have a lot of ability to kind of just sprint through these rotations rather than kind of taking them slowly. So it allows us to take it a lot slower as a team.
And that's another great positive as well, because then you can beat the defender rotations, because the defender rotations on this map are barbaric. Yeah. They are just disgustingly large.
If you're up on the pyramids and you got to rotate all the way to B site, that's like 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah, you're out of breath by the time you arrive.
Yeah. We gotta work on it though, because we got dusted by. That was the one map that they dusted us.
We picked that map over Split, right? Because we beat them on Split. So the obvious solution is Split again, right? Like we beat them on it last time, but we were so confident in our Breeze that we really wanted to pull it out on them, and it didn't work out as well as it had on all these other teams. So it's something that we've been reviewing and trying to figure out, and we've been working on. But I really do like that composition.
And you mentioned within that as well the success you were having in scrims with that.
Yeah.
And I did kind of want to talk about the difference between scrim results and match results, and more so, what are teams getting wrong when they succeed in scrims but then fail in matches?
It's funny you bring that up. So 2 days ago we played Cloud9 in Scrim, and I think someone posted it on VLR.
I've been hearing this all weekend.
Yeah, Cloud9 went into this qualifier like their pockets were overflowing with Scrim bucks. It was just ridiculous how many Scrim rounds they were winning. Like they look like such a solid team, and then they go in and who did they lose to? LG, right? Which is like seemingly kind of a pug team. Like LG has always been very puggy in how they play, but now they have new roster moves, and they brought Tig in, who's a good friend of ours.
Sub as well.
And
playing with bad.
Like you don't expect a team like Cloud9, who's so dominant in these scrims, to come in and drop maps like that. So it's hard to say exactly what the issue is without like being in the room with them and understanding like their dynamic and like who's really leading and who's making the decision, who's bringing the energy. But yeah, it was very strange to see them go down, because they were really oppressive this week in scrims.
Yeah, Scrim results. You guys know, like you guys have been playing games as well. It's like
Yeah.
rank game. Like you just gotta try new things out and hope it works. You know, it's not. There's no solid plan. Like you do this, and then in a match you'll perform. Right. I think the best thing you can do is to try and match that energy. If you can play the way that you're scrimming, or at least like as close as possible in a match, that's the best bet you're gonna have doing anything, right? Like that's the only advice you can ever give someone. It's like, make sure that you're not trolling too hard, I think.
You'll practice how you play mantra, right?
Yeah. So I guess then to ensure it, you just play practice as if it's a match with the same level of seriousness, not chasing eco frags or some nonsense like that.
Just wide swinging for fun.
Sure.
It's finding a balance though, right? Because you can't go into every scrim and say, I want to win this scrim, because then you'll never practice new things. You're never going to take a swing or try a new Sentinel setup or try a execute that you haven't tried before, because you don't want to lose that round. Like you don't want to go into a scrim with that kind of mentality. So us, like on our end, we kind of mix it up. Like our first scrim of the day is kind of more loose, and then our last scrim of the day we try and win it, right? But yeah, I don't know. Some of these teams it seems like there's a huge disconnect between how they play in scrims versus how they play in practices, and we'll kind of even remind ourselves of that.
I've never used Twitter before Valorant. Like I'm not a big social media guy, but like this stuff is just fucking funny. It's like, like if someone loses a scrim and they're like, this guy's going to Berlin or this guy's going to Reykjavik.
It is wild, actually.
It's like,
but that's not even fans. That's pros tweeting that.
Ye is already in Berlin right now, is what I thought. He's already booked his flight and he's there. I mean, it's
that's another team as well, Andbox, right? That have been allegedly farming the scrim bucks, but
tweets of Ye he's evidently just walking on water in scrims.
Yeah, I mean, Ye's been kind of walking on water in matches.
Yeah,
but they still haven't found the results.
With Andbox, it's like Ye is always Ye, right? It's just the people around him, the supporting cast, can they step up to the level to support him the way they need to do to get the win?
That guy's scary to play against. I don't think there's a lot of people that are scared to play against. I think you don't want to take a straight aim duel with him, because that's what he wants. Don't give it to him.
Yeah. That is I like your mindset on that. I don't think there's a lot of people who are just comfortable in saying like, I just don't want to aim duel this guy. Like knowing that is you're at a disadvantage against certain players in that regard, but yet I mean, you still remain confident in your play. Yeah. How do you balance that?
Well, people are like, even some of my teammates have told me, "Oh, Jordan, you can't think like that because at the back of your head, buried deep, is you're scared of tens." I'm like, I'm not fucking scared of this guy. Like, outside the game, I appreciate how they play. When I'm in the server, I'm the best player in the server. That's the only way you can win. Tens dropped 36 on us. Asuna dropped 30. I clicked tab. I didn't know they had 36 kills until the end of the game, because at the end of the day, when we're playing, or like when I'm playing, everyone's just a player behind a monitor.
Right.
That's gonna die one day. You know?
Pretty morbid, but true.
You know, like,
I mean, that's fantastic nihilism. I appreciate that.
I know, but like that's stuff like that keeps me calm. It's because we're just playing. We're living our dreams. We're having such a great life. We're trying to pursue our dreams of playing a video game. Like at the end of the day, we're all equals. There's no way I'm gonna be scared when I'm playing. But
it comes down to strengths and weaknesses too. Like he's someone who may say, I may be weaker than this person as like on an aiming. If you just take pure aim, right? So he's not going to take this one-on-one and just swing out and try and have the better aim, but he knows that he's a smarter player. So he can put himself in a position that, he's going to outsmart him and make the play on him, put him in an angle that he's uncomfortable in, like he was referencing earlier, or whatever it may be. He knows where his strengths lie as well as his weaknesses, and that allows him to utilize himself as a player and an individual better.
Taking the raised satchel peak.
Yeah, and I think this is one interesting thing that I think can stir up people. It's like when you play against certain players in a 1v1, they're not going to stick the bomb. There are certain players, they're so hungry for that kill because they want to one tap you when you're jiggle peeking or whatever, that sometimes you don't even have to peek. But obviously that's goes both ways, right? Sure. They can be like, I'm just going to stick it because this guy's scared of me. Yeah. But in high tense situations, some players just will not stick the bomb. They're going to wide swing you. It's really, for me, that's the fun part of the game. Yeah. I don't find it fun like just shooting people in the video game. I find it more fun like finding their small tendencies, their little things they do. Like, since it's already out there, like when Dapper plays Sion Haven, he cages and 50% of the time he's in that cage. That's why we were spamming it. That was not a study. It wasn't anything. It was just someone on the team saying, I play this guy in ranked. He plays in that cage.
Yeah.
Spam that fucking cage.
Yeah, and it's got the same result as if you like studied it, but it's just and it's just intuitive because you played against them. You understand how they think.
Yeah, you scrim all these same players over and over, and then you play all these same players in matches over and over. You start to learn their tendencies for sure. And a lot of people, a lot of people don't change up what they do as much as or as often as they should.
Yeah. That always reminds me of the AI playing against Dota players. Did you ever watch that?
No.
OpenAI built like this Dota 1v1. They built a bot that could challenge a 1v1 mid fight against I think they were playing Shadow Fiend or something. And the AI would just always understand where they were trying to dodge to. Because humans think they're dodging randomly and they're not. You have patterns that are just built into your play that you don't understand even sometimes that you're doing. And breaking outside of your mold is really difficult. This is just a Dota match. Oh, this is them playing against the AI in a 5v5, I think it was. Yeah. But they played against, I think it was Gen.G they played against. And he just got destroyed by the bot. He got rocked. He couldn't do a thing. And yeah, it's like, obviously that's the extreme example where it's literally a computer that's been built to destroy humans. but if you understand player tendencies, it is very difficult for opponents and for yourself to be able to break out of them. You tend to do the same stuff.
Yep. And so on the flip side of that, preparation wise, try and be as prepared as we can and have as diverse strategies as a team and at an individual level to avoid, these people and have like 2, 3, 4 support staff who are watching all our VODs before the game and giving these big, long cheat sheets on what we may do. We try and make it hard for those people.
Yeah. I want to wrap here by talking about the road to Berlin. So the road to Berlin has one serious challenge ahead of you guys. It's the main event that's coming up. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, there's 3 slots, right, for North America?
Yep.
So you have to make it to top 3. It's a double elimination bracket. Who do you believe are your biggest, at least I assume it's a double elimination bracket. I actually don't know that, but right. Who do you see as the teams that you have to beat in order to get there? So you've been able to make it and qualify for all of these events. We don't know what the actual bracket is going to look like yet, but who are the teams where you feel like you're going to have to punch up and beat them, where you've maybe felt in the past, but with this new roster, you're like, okay, we're gunning for these guys. Are there teams where you think in that kind of way of like, okay, we need to take down an Envy, we need to take down 100 Thieves in order to overtake them and earn our spot for Berlin? Do you have that kind of mentality about anybody?
Yeah, there's teams that we think are very good, right? And then there's teams that are like, we have to beat this team to like prove that we've come up to this level. I think those teams for us right now are Sentinels, 100 Thieves, and Envy, which obviously on this, it should be the top 3. I don't really like VLR rankings. I don't understand why FaZe is so high, but that's a whole other conversation. But those are the big ones, right? Like, we've proven that we can beat Sentinels, and now we just have to prove that we can do it consistently. And the same with 100 Thieves, right? Like, we came really close to beating them with the old roster. We beat them this time around with the new roster, but people say, qualifier. Like, this is the time we have to beat them when it counts. So we have to go in and beat these teams. But that's not to say any of these other teams are slouches, right? Like, I think Gen.G is a fantastic team. I think version 1 is very good when they have all their players and they're at their peak, right? Which they will for the Challenger finals. Yeah. So, these are teams you don't want to sleep on by any means. So it'll be interesting to see just how the brackets play out and, who we get matched up against. But
I want to play FaZe.
Yeah.
I want to play FaZe.
Why is that?
Because the first
ranked 4th on VLR.
No.
It's on drop down.
The first time that we beat them, and the second time they trashed us. And
we came to that match too, like, we beat them last time, we're beat them again, and they were just on a hot streak.
I remember that actually. Yeah. There has been a rivalry from Masters 1. I mean, that was ancient texts.
It was. Well, I mean,
because they haven't made it deep since then.
It was also it was between those games. You had knocked them out, I believe.
The first one.
Yeah, and then it was after that. The next one they came back was when they went on. They were just on that hot streak for the rest of the tournament.
No, they dusted us. It was not even close.
It's all right. They dusted everyone else too, except for Sen. I mean, they were just
teams. They go on these hot streaks, right? And then they simmer off and cool down and like come back down to this like base level, and that's just something I don't want us to do. Like, we're on a hot streak right now, and people like to cry honeymoon phase or whatever it may be, but I want to prove in this Challenger event that we are better and that we've reached this level, right? But in order to do that, we have to prove our consistency. But yeah, FaZe is a big like competitor for us and someone we want to beat. I don't think that, we'll have any trouble beating them this time around. Not to like talk any smack or anything, but I really want to play them again just for that. And it's not just like a rivalry from a player perspective, because from an org perspective, like the founders of XSET are Greg Syyko, Clinton Sparks, Will Eddins, and Marco. And Clinton Sparks and Will and Greg all came from FaZe. Like Greg was the CEO of FaZe Clan. Will is the guy who created all the FaZe merch back in the day. Like these guys are OG FaZe members who left to create their own thing. So it's like added incentive for us.
That's so odd that there was a natural rivalry in the game for Masters 1 when the orgs have that link as well. That's like it's been written. It's been written in the tomes.
I don't really think about that though. I just wanna beat Andre. I don't want to beat Baby Bay.
Yeah.
Because we used to play Crossfire together.
Of course. Right.
Yeah,
Wait, did you play together?
We did when we were 14.
Oh shit, that's a long time
we were 14.
ago.
And then I met him when we went to WCG in 2012. He was on Team USA, I was on Team Canada.
Right.
And dude, this guy's been smeeging since he was like 10. Everyone thought he was a cheater. This guy on LAN, like when we played Crossfire on LAN, this like everyone's very like calculated. Oh, like we gotta do this with us. He's like on stage yelling, standing up, like let's fucking go, boys. And he just goes at it. And I love playing against him, and I want to beat him because dude, this guy's energy is just amazing. Like if you ever play with him in the Discord, he's like just screaming at you, but it's always hyping you up.
Yeah.
He won't bring you down. You'll be like, let's fucking go. Oh, nice try, man. Let's fucking go. You'd be like 1 in 12, and Andre would be like, you're the fucking best player in this lobby. And I'm like, no. So I just want to shut him up, because last time he beat me, he said he was a better Crossfire player, but
we love disliking these guys individually, like all those. I even like Trippy, their coach, is a great guy, really funny. But just we want to beat him. Like we're 1-1 right now with them, and we want to go up 2-1. That's it.
What have you found here?
Oh,
this is AYRIN.
Like, is this one of your?
Yeah.
Is this one of your frag movies? Or
yeah.
Wow.
It's where the running and shooting comes from.
Yeah. Was that a big thing in this game?
Oh
yeah.
Just run and gun everywhere.
Yeah. Clips, like it's just you don't stop moving.
Oh
just
yeah,
keep running.
you really don't.
I know when we were talking to BCJ, he was kind of talking about like I don't know if he classified it as a rivalry, but you guys having run into Envy over and over and struggling against Envy. I don't know. Is there anything there?
They've beaten us twice in like serious matches. We beat them once in a serious match. We knocked them out of a closed, and then we beat them once in the seeding match. This is where I think it's a bit confusing. It's because like I think we're on the same wavelength. Like we're very similar teams, but the one thing they edge us out on is that they place like 4th to 5th, and we play 7th to 8th in the finals. We're very similar teams. We're very similar, and I think BCJ likes to play against Crashies. I think he's in love with him. I think he wants to prove that he's the better Sova.
Yeah,
and I think
they're also one of those teams that, like I was mentioning earlier, like they were a team that could take our sight hits and slow us down and really stall us to the point where we were kind of lost on what to do, like in mid-round. And that's something that I think has been addressed by bringing Muir in as IGL. So I'm really fascinated to see, how this is going to play out against them when we actually, play a match versus them with this new roster, because I think that our play style now is much more well-rounded, and it's not something where they can kind of like push us into their style of play and force us to play the way they want to play on their pace. We can kind of dictate the pace more, or even adapt to the pacing that they're giving us and just be successful no matter what.
Yeah.
It's fun. Like play this is fun.
Yeah. Any of those teams, it's always a good match. Like it could go either way. Like we love all these teams. We think they're really great, well-rounded teams, and that's why I included them. Like Sentinels, 100 Thieves, Envy. Like those are the guys who I think are just great, like well-rounded teams and solid contenders to go to Berlin.
Yeah. I'm really excited. It feels like North America has definitely stepped up for Berlin. Like there's teams that are looking very hot. Like 100 Thieves look really good coming into this event. Envy look like they're on a bit of a heater again. You guys are looking fantastic, obviously. Sentinels are always the best team in the world until proven otherwise.
100%.
So it's crazy up at the top of North America right now. I think it's looking better than it did for Reykjavik, and Sentinels won Reykjavik. So it's a good time to be a North American fan. I think this Challengers final is going to be nuts. thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
Absolutely.
It's
Thanks for having us.
yeah, it's been a great chat, and I definitely need to catch up again as well after Challengers Finals, after Berlin, after you've gone and seen the sights. You got to think like you're going there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, once we get off our flight back from Berlin, we'll be in Austin for a while. So
exactly, and then we'll catch up then. The Plat curse will not affect you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Yeah, that does it for our BACKCHAT episode then. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can catch episodes like this and our regular episode, which will be out on. Always forget when we record them. Wednesday.
It's been Wednesday for 40 weeks, Josh.
Yeah, no, it has. On Wednesday, you can catch the regular episode on Wednesday where we'll be recapping a bunch of other shit. All right, appreciate you guys coming. Thank you very much, and we'll see you for future episodes. Bye bye.